Now, as a rule, the fun that I pursue doesn't cost a ton of money. But I do understand the automotive is like a pay-to-play arena. And I've wanted to do this thing up in a way where somebody of my demographic, which is just regular working guy, could afford to party in this world. All right, I want to rip through modifications because I really do think modifications is something that you have to figure out independently. You got to listen to what your vehicle needs. I think listening to a billion reviews about what modification is good and why is dumb, because everyone lives in a different place and everybody's got a different use case for these things. So for my personal modification schema, I'm driving in very bushy, remote areas where the road is not maintained in all weather, where the trails have trees growing on them, where the trails have trees that have fallen on them. When there's obstacles I'm going to have to climb over, where there's obstacles I'm going to have to fit myself under. So you get yourself a bumper. And then you gotta get yourself a winch so you can self-recover, so you don't have to walk home. This is a Smitty-built XRC 9500. It's honestly been awesome. I've used it a lot. The one thing I hate about it, the free spool is nearly impossible. I'm a pretty heavy guy, that's like a lot of my weight. I don't know if they packed the drum too full of grease, but either way. Winch works fine. I have synthetic line on there right now because there's been a lot of stuff in the last year about people getting killed or maimed pretty severely by the steel line. But if you're on your own, I trust steel line a little bit more. With this thing, I go out with people all the time, so if my Amazon $150 line blows, somebody else can hook me up and get me home. I got a Warren stopper on this. PA was liquidating these things for like $12, so yeah, go me. I got 2 PA incandescent fog pods. I don't think they make these anymore, but they're so dope. I do have an extra cover for this one. I actually keep meaning to just pull it out of my driveway and put it on. I don't know the wattage on these, but they're incredibly bright. They're pretty spot, but they do got a bit of a combo flood to them as well. The biggest thing I love about these is it'll melt snow. I've been driving into snow that's blowing so hard that it fills up all my lights and they just kind of turn into like a fucking 2-meter perimeter lanterns. While these things will melt the snow off and they'll be the only kind of like long-reaching light. They're designed great. They're honestly pretty tough. They are glass, but the glass is pretty tough. I catch rocks every once in a while and I still haven't had a single issue. I've had these things pretty much underwater and I haven't had an issue with water intrusion either. But again, it's a metal and glass housing. Every day that goes by, the O-ring on them does get a little older. So if you've got something like this, consider servicing it. Consider trying to source an O-ring and just kind of keep these things fresh, because P is not making them anymore. And the stuff that P is making now is less than superb. Behind that, we got another feature that came with the vehicle, and that's plastic Amazon.ca slat grates. Yeah, and I don't know, man. Those things are fine. I don't know if they've helped me in any way. You know what? Actually, through sheer luck, I did lose this one in a way where a stick came up and went like right through here and punched into the grate, and the grate actually offset the stick enough to miss my radiator on a trail ride one time when I was doing I think it was like a little stream crossing or something. Yeah, maybe these are kind of good. I don't know. It's an aesthetic choice, I guess. Am I gonna get another one to fill this hole? Likely. When I'm gonna do that? I don't know. Let's talk Bing Bong Amazon lights. 'Tis a great era to be somebody who hath not a lot of money but would like some LED headlights. Especially if you're getting them in a standardized size like a 7-inch round or I want to say a 4x6 square, 5x7 square. I think these are just called Osram lights. I don't know. They say DOT SAE on them. I don't think that's true. But if you're trying to save a buck, these things absolutely kick ass. They got a good spread. It's not overbearing. You're not killing anybody on the highway. And they got good color and they got good reach. There ain't nothing wrong with those at all. And I guess if we're on the topic of lights anyway, let's just smoke all the lights. I understand this to be a generic 4-inch cube. It's a great light. I haven't had a single issue with it. I do wish it was a little bit more of a flood, but I'm using them as side shooters and they match really nicely with the edge of the beam on the headlight, and it gives me a near 180-degree cone of light in front of the vehicle, which is not only good for my ability to drive, literally, but it's really good for mental health. when you're fighting your way out of a trail that you maybe been on too long, which is something that it does happen. And then on the top, I've got a 50-inch Night Rider dual row LED bar. Night Rider really make a great product. I think I've had like 3 or 4 Night Rider bars. I had one on my minivan when I was working remote communications. I had one on my Jimmy. I've got one on this thing, and then I just put one on our new project. Now, this is important. Often when you're getting a straight bar, you're gonna have a much more spot beam way ahead of you, so it's really good for shooting far away and high. If you want something that's going to be more of like a wide beam, consider something curved, or consider something that's been designed in a way to spread that light out a little bit. Now this one, the last 12 LEDs on either side have like a scatter reflecting cone, like following the LED, but I don't find that works particularly well. It just doesn't flood great, and that'd be my only downside to this thing realistically. Now I don't even know if it's worth mentioning these light mounts. For whatever type of vehicle you have, there's gonna be light bar and pod light mounts available, or you can be creative and make some yourself. I encourage that. But yeah, these were like $100. Super. And they got this pod on it, they got the pod mount, and then they got the bar mount. You're stuck with a particular size of bar when you do this. But yeah, those were good. I ain't got no complaints about those at all. The taillights are just some taillights I found on Amazon for honestly really cheap, and they're absolutely awesome. I think they look great, they're really tough. They're kind of a dark smoked lens when they're off, and they're a ton brighter than the stock housings I had. And again, these were $70. That's very cheap in this world. Gotta carry the camera back through the bush to the front. All right, let's talk body additions and armor. So of course we mentioned the bumper. These are the Smittybilt XRC tubular fenders in their widest possible purchase configuration. I want to say it's 4-inch, 3-inch. I don't know. They don't really make them that wide, but we got rules here in Canada about how much tire poke you can have. So the wider you get them, the better. It's very common for the stock fenders on TJs to wear through the kind of protective plastic on the bottom, and then you're getting rocks that are kind of sandblasting their way through the top of the fender. That's what happened to mine. Rusted a hole in it, looked like shit. So these were the cheapest thing I could kind of find to figure out how to deal with that. All ass. This is incredibly unsafe to be doing with a machete in my hand. Yeah, this is fucking stupid. What am I doing? Yeah, see, very strong. I don't think there's any experience I enjoyed less on God's green earth than putting these things on, because you're cutting all the way back to the cab. The finished product, super sturdy. They can handle a bash to a tree. Relatively inexpensive, very inexpensive when you consider trying to get parts to Canada. And at the time, relatively available. And I've had no issues with them. They're absolutely great. They give me a little bit extra clearance, but not much. Oh my God. Shoelace untied, nice dude. Nice. All right, controversial modification. Mud flap made of conveyor belt from the airport. I have got enough tire poke. When I'm spinning wheels in mud, I absolutely blasting the inside of the cab with mud. And in turn, whoever was in the cab also was getting blasted with mud and whatever else. And for keeping mud out of the cab, it works absolutely great. The one big fucking problem I have with this is I can't see my damn wheel and what it's crawling over. I feel considerably more disjointed from the experience when I'm driving somewhere where I really have to pay attention to what's going on under the vehicle. I don't know if these will stay. I got them on the front and the back. The ones on the back might stay. So they're on for now. They work great for what I needed them to do, but they've created a new problem. On the top of the fender here, we got limb risers that I made out of some wire rope and a turnbuckle. And honestly, I think this is one of the greatest modifications that I have. With how tight and overgrown a lot of the trails are here, you get so much tree material stacking up on your windshield. Now, further perpetuating that is your light bar that's hanging off the front and catching sticks, catching things, and just causing like a massive collection of debris. So what this does is as it, here I'm just gonna be the tree here, as the vehicle goes by the tree, as the vehicle goes by the tree leans onto the limb riser and rides up the limb riser and is kind of flexed off, and it doesn't get caught. And it works so good. Where it doesn't work is it gets wedged in on this side because I've got an awning that's sticking out the top. But overall, for a DIY modification that looks sick, do this. Now, this is easily one of the funniest parts I think I have, because it's actually for a 07 to 18 Jeep Wrangler JK. Now, I don't actually know the details on this particularly, but it seems that Poison Spotter, which is a company that made this, made way too many of these things and then suffered some kind of business loss, and other companies started buying up all their blems in stock. And so now you can get this, what would probably be a $200-300 part. You can get it for... The performance I get out of this thing is actually really, really good. I do stay a little bit cooler, especially when I'm climbing hills, climbing mountains, going slow, and sometimes the fans can't really keep up. It does get the heat out of the engine bay. You got to consider that these inline engines, these i6 4-liter engines, they got the fuel rail, they got the intake, and they got the exhaust all on one side. So that heat bleeds up real bad. And if you don't get that hot air out of the way, your engine bays are really, really, really hot. Your cooling system's really, 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 really hot. And you run into issues. You run into fueling issues, you run into cooling issues, way too common. So this is definitely a mod that I recommend. The one thing that sucks about it is if I go through a puddle and the fan hits the water, it does blast the water like blood in a Tarantino movie all over my windshield, and it's really annoying. That and the hardware it came with fucking sucks. So get yourself some better hardware, maybe some blacktop hardware with a little plastic washer in it, and you'd be doing a lot better than I did when I was trying to hack this together at like 6 p.m. on a Tuesday or something. All right, let's talk about doors. In the summer, I used to just not put doors on at all, and honestly, knowing full well that was not, you're not allowed to do that, but I just thought I'd run my luck for a little while and then see what happens. I got pretty far through the year dailying this way, but eventually I did get pulled over. I knew right away what I was getting in trouble for. So the cop walks up to a hole in the side of my vehicle where a door would usually live. I looked at him and mimed myself rolling the window down, which I thought was really funny. The cop did not think it was nearly as funny, but he did let me off with a warning and a fix-it ticket. So I got home and I ordered these, which were, I want to say, $480, which is kind of a lot of clams for a budget build, but I was really in a bit of a pinch, so I just kind of went with it. You can't find tube doors or half doors for traditionally anything under $500. This was definitely kind of bottom of the barrel, but I liked the cargo net look on them, and to pair with that, I bought this Built cargo net rear top, soft top, clear top, see-through top, holes in the top, which I like. Keeps my dog from flying out when I don't have the top on, and this is the summer configuration for it. So come May or June, I take the top off and I leave it off until it starts getting cold, and it's getting cold now. So I wanted to get out and film this while I still had it the way it is, because I guarantee by next week I'll have the hard top back on. So yeah, under these tube doors I got side step rock sliders. I think these are necessary, honestly, for almost all vehicles. Not only does it protect the side of the body when I'm kind of rocking over stuff, but it does offer me a tiny side step for about half of my foot, maybe a little more than half of my foot. When I'm stuck in a hole and I gotta somehow get out of there and get around to the winch and figure myself out. These have been great. I haven't had a lot of issues with them. They're starting to rust around here, but if I was a smart little boy when I put them in here, I would have put washers on there, but that was kind of a foolish mistake. It matches the black kind of skirted body line here, so I'm not unhappy with that. Hate this. Hate the fact that it's a 90 like that. Gonna have to figure something out for that at some point, but this Built XRC Exo cage, it provides very little structural support. I think it's like maxed at a 300-pound load rating. It goes entirely on the outside of even the hard top, but it works pretty good. I have the awning on there. I've got the limb risers hook up to it, and I also run a rocket box sometimes for camping. I put all my kind of camping stuff in the rocket box because we are limited pretty considerably when it comes to size of the vehicle. It's really not that big of a vehicle, so you can't really fit too much as far as camping stuff in it. In Canada, we don't have Harbor Freight, which is a damn tragedy, but we do have Princess Auto, which is like a little more scuffed. But it's the same deal. It's the same idea. It's like they're a very thorough hardware store with a liquidation component, but usually the product is a little more scuffed, a little more little less quality. But they do have some gems sometimes, which includes a roof basket up here, which I have holding 2 Max Trax knockoffs that do work and have worked. Max Trax do work, even if you're not in sand, even if you're in mud sometimes. If you use a recovery track in mud, it will weigh 900 pounds when you try to pull it up, and it will hold on to mud all day, and it sucks for the application, but it does work. And then we have a Princess Auto awning, which was $130, and it's great. It definitely kicks water. It's strong enough to stay standing. The design is logical. The components definitely leave something to be desired, but if you're charging $140 for an awning, the components definitely make sense. You see these little blocks in here keep the rods spaced out so the rods don't bounce around and start wearing themselves out. There's just like really cheaply done little creative tricks they've used to make these things work, and they're sweet. I like it a lot. So far I've used it more than the Batwing that I have on my other vehicle, but I've had this probably a year longer, but it's awesome. What it really did for me was it proved awning as a viable and justifiable technology for like camping and stuff like that. Camped in poor weather with this thing a number of times, and it works awesome. It's sweet. The awning keeps us nice and dry. I've had a fire under it and everything. Got a door, fuel door. Good idea, because these things don't come with a fuel door, so you get a lot of mud and shit in there, and it's just kind of annoying to clear that out before you fuel up. Also, people steal your gas cap if they can see it. People don't steal the gas cap if there's a little door in front of it. You can get lockable ones, but I don't think I'd do that. All right, on the back corner here, we got a Smitty-built tire carrier bumper combo. Last year, I broke my hand by smashing it with a giant mallet. I spent a reasonable amount of the last bit of the summer in a cast. The lifestyle that one must live when in a cast did not really match the pace of what I was up to at the time, so I did my best to not let it slow me down, and I did get out there and I was wheeling, I was going out to events and stuff. But one time I was trying to cross a marshy dip on a power line trail, and I got really dumb stuck, really stuck. Corey got his Ranger backed up to me and tried tugging me out by my back bumper with a bounce rope, which usually would have worked if I had some gap behind my wheels, but I had no gap at all behind my wheels. So the stock TJ bumper, which he kind of looped the rope around, just tore off. So I didn't have a bumper for a long time, and I knew I needed one, and I knew I needed a fresh tire carrier if I was going to continue carrying around this big tire. So I eventually just pulled the trigger on this, and I think this was another $600 or something. You know what? It was probably more. It was probably more like $800, $850, because you got to buy the carrier and the bumper separate. So yeah, it was a little expensive, and honestly, it works. It works really good. I'm pretty secure with how the tire's sitting, and how the mechanism works, and how the armature works. I keep it greased and everything. The tire, combo carrier, combo bumper, that's a lot of weight on the back. And I do find that my back sits a little bit lower than my front. When my back is catching and releasing the weight as I'm coming over something, I do find the back sits down further than it should. And I'm hitting my bump stops. I've actually beat my bump stops out. And I've cracked an upper control arm bracket off of the axle before, so I think my rear end is articulating too much. I'm not sure. I've tried putting another set of springs in there, and it's been fine since, but just something I am actively considering with that aspect of the build. Just an example of modifying yourself into a bit of a corner, which I have been trying to avoid and have been conscious about this whole time. Someone's calling me. Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
I could ask you the same thing.
It's going pretty good. I'm still filming. What time is it?
It's 4:30.
Oh, good lord.
You've been out for many of hours.
Many hours.
So, are you still many of hours out?
It depends if I try to wash the Jeep tonight or not. The XJ's all done. I just gotta jump in it and drive home.
Okay. Well, you do whatever you need to do. Just keep me posted.
All right, sounds good. What do you got cooking?
Nothing. I've vacuumed and cleaned the kitchen and put on laundry, and I'm reading.
Nice, hell yeah.
I'm in no rush. I'm not starving for dinner or anything. I just thought I would check in on you, so
sweet.
Don't feel like you need to hurry back. Just keep me posted.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Oh, what a fucking babe. So wife material sounds like. Where was I? And for tires, I got 5 of these Federal Explorer RT tires. Now this is a 10-ply LT tire. I got them on a 16-inch rim. These are pretty bargain bin tires, but I do find them to be absolutely fantastic. I want to say I've been running them for like 2 or 3 years, and they're slick. I run them all year. I've taken them on long road trips. I don't really have any vibration concerns with them. They're mad tough. I run on shale. I've never punctured one. This vehicle is pretty light, but I've really never had a concern about them since I got them. They've been. My last battery has 1 bar of battery somehow, even though it showed green on the charger. The only thing I don't like about them is they're whack heavy. Now, to some capacity, that does keep me planted when I'm articulating. That does keep me planted when I'm climbing over stuff and getting wild, but they're heavy to move, and they do cause my vehicle a lot of stress. Now that stress is no better. Better illustrated than upon the rear door. So yeah, so that was effectively my 3rd and final camera battery, but we did manage to cover every notable component bolted to the outside of the Jeep. I wanted this video in particular to focus exclusively on kind of face value, simple function, or aesthetic modifications to the vehicle. I am working on another one of these talking head videos where we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the modifications that have given me a notable performance boost. But I think I'd like that one to be a separate video because not only is it going to be really long, but it's probably going to be pretty technical, covering some of the theory and the practicality of performance upgrades and like where you can spend the money and justify what you're going to be getting out of it for, again, your specific use case, which is all of the context when it comes to modification. It's like the most important part. I'm also going to cover changes we made to the interior, whether it's a quality of life improvement or an actual functional modification, sneaky ways to kind of maximize the space, because you're extremely limited when you're running like a 2-door platform, but they are so good to run. So look out for those in the future. If you've gotten this far in the video, thank you very much. Despite the amount of work involved, I genuinely do like putting these together and developing my skills both in the automotive and 4x4 world as well as the film world. So yeah, when I see that people are watching these videos and engaging with the style of content that I'm putting out, it really does mean a ton to me. Yeah, so I plan on and hope to continue to produce content that is educational and fun and hopefully a just showcase of some of the truly impressive, beautiful locations that we've got both here and there and everywhere that I can get to in a 20-plus-year-old vehicle.